Have you ever noticed something interesting about a car? The windshield is huge. The rearview mirror is tiny. Have you ever wondered why? Imagine trying to drive down the road while staring only into the rearview mirror. You wouldn't get very far. Before long, you'd end up in a ditch, hit a mailbox, or crash into something you never saw coming. The rearview mirror has a purpose. It helps us see where we've been, but it was never designed to tell us where we're going. Life works the same way. Many people spend so much time looking backward that they struggle to move forward. Some look back at mistakes they made. Some look back at words someone spoke over them. Some look back at a painful childhood. Some look back at bad choices, broken relationships, disappointments, or failures. And after a while, they begin to believe that their past is their future. But it isn't. One of the greatest tricks discouragement plays on us is convincing us that what happened yesterday determines what can happen tomorrow. God doesn't see it that way. In Isaiah 43, verses 18 to 19, the Lord says, "Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing." Notice that God doesn't say the past never happened. He doesn't tell us to pretend it wasn't painful. He doesn't ask us to ignore the lessons we've learned. Instead, he says, don't dwell there. Don't build your house there. Don't park your future there. Don't let your past become the lens through which you see everything else. The rearview mirror is useful for a glance. The windshield is meant for your focus. Maybe you've made mistakes. Maybe you've been hurt by people who were supposed to care for you. Maybe you failed at things you desperately wanted to succeed at. Maybe you're carrying regrets that nobody else knows about. But none of those things get the final word on your life. You can change the direction of your future with God's help. Think about a few of the great people in the Bible. The great Old Testament prophet Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers. They threw him into a pit, sold him into slavery, and he ended up far from home. Later, he was falsely accused of a crime and thrown into prison. Most people would have thought his life was over, but Joseph stayed faithful to God. Years later, God helped him rise from prisoner to one of the most powerful leaders in Egypt. The very person who had been abandoned became the person God used to save thousands of lives during a famine. Moses made a terrible mistake when he was young. After killing an Egyptian guard who was beating a slave, he fled into the wilderness and spent 40 years tending sheep. He probably thought his opportunity to do something important was gone forever. But God wasn't finished with him. The shepherd who felt forgotten became the leader who confronted Pharaoh and led an entire nation to freedom. Peter was one of Jesus' closest disciples. He promised he would never abandon Jesus. Yet on the night Jesus was arrested, Peter became afraid and denied even knowing him 3 different times. Imagine how ashamed he must have felt. But Jesus forgave him and gave him another chance. Peter later became one of the boldest leaders in the early Christian church, helping spread the gospel throughout the world. Paul may be the most surprising example of all. Before following Christ, he actively hunted Christians and helped put many of them in prison. Some even died because of his actions. Yet after meeting Jesus, his life completely changed. The man who once fought against Christianity became one of its greatest missionaries, traveling thousands of miles and writing many of the books that now make up the New Testament. If their stories had ended at their worst moments, we would never know their names. But God kept writing, and He's still writing your story too. The chapter you're living right now is not the whole book. The struggle you're facing today is not the final page. The mistake you made is not your identity. God sees more than your past. He sees your potential. He sees your future. He sees the person you are becoming. So, when the voice of discouragement tells you to stare into the rearview mirror, remember this: the windshield is bigger for a reason. God placed a much larger window in front of you than behind you, not because your past doesn't matter, but because your future matters more. Keep moving forward. Keep trusting God. Keep believing. Because the best chapters of your story may still be ahead,